everybody, my name is Sherry. Welcome to my stamp studio. Happy Monday. This week is it's not quite the last week of February. I think February actually ends early next week, but I have a jury summons. It starts next Monday. So I kind of feel like I'm going to treat this as my last week because maybe I'll be here next Monday or maybe I'll be in court or maybe later next week. The way it works in our county is that you have to call in every day of that week that you have the summons, and maybe you get called that day, maybe you don't, but you keep calling for the entire week. And if you make it through the whole week and you don't get called, then you never get called. So it leaves like kind of a week in limbo. But I feel like this week is a week of deadlines. So if you're on my email list, you might get a lot of emails this week, especially because I'm going to try to make sure that you know of everything that will be happening next week. But today is a deadline. If you are a demonstrator and you live in the Midwest, it's a deadline for the early bird pricing for our demonstrator event, 35 Ways to Celebrate Stampin' Up! That's coming up here at the end of March. So if you want the early bird price, it's today. So you can go to the Facebook page, 35 Ways to Celebrate Stampin' Up! Or you can go to my things and it's all on there as well. And I also have coming up this week the deadline for my online mini retreat. It's mini because if I get called to serve on a jury, then I might not have time to make as many projects as I normally do. So we'll be doing 6 projects together. The focus is on embossing paste and then also on coloring tips and techniques. I'm going to use 3 different sets. I will use, make 2 cards with each of the sets, but I'll give you ideas for switching them in and out. And if you have other similar things, you can do it. So all 6 cards will have embossing paste in some way, shape, or form on them, but you can substitute. You can go to my website again and find them. We'll be using Best Day, and each of these cards have a tutorial on my channel, so you can go check that out. And on those, you can get more details about the retreat. It's online. All of the cards will have their own, or probably 2 cards per video, but they'll all have a tutorial to walk you through. This is a little bit like the ribbon we're going to put on today's card. This is Taco Fiesta, and you can get just the videos. You can get all the way up to the videos in all 3 sets. So just to kind of coordinate what you need with the package. If you get all 3 sets, then you get some freebies as well, and then Silly Goose. And I colored all those different ways. And then this week is, we're heading into those last few days of celebration. So I'm going to also use a couple of other sets as well, but I'm going to try to get in the last few sets of celebration that I didn't get a video for. I did do a video for this, but I think it may have been back in November. It's been a hot minute, and I'll try to put that video maybe on the blog post that matches this as well. So I'm going to use Beautifully Happy, or maybe my daughter made my birthday card with it, which is in November. So it was a hot minute when she did that. But this is free with a $100 purchase. So I'm going to use it. I'm going to use some fun techniques with it. I'm going to use also this embossing folder, and I've used a couple of them because it's a 3-pack. We've never had a 3-pack of embossing folders before, and every time I've used one, I've had people message me or ask below the video or email me and be like, where are those folders? Available March 1st. So if you have to have them now, you can join my team and you can order them as part of your starter kit, and then you get $50 free stuff, which is more than you normally get free. But they're really good folders. I used one on that goose card I just showed you. So this one kind of reminds me of a tin ceiling. We just went out for breakfast a couple of weeks ago in an old building. And you know those tin ceilings they have? That's kind of the pattern that reminds me of. So I ran this through on soft suede. And we're going to be using that on the card. And then I'm going to use this vellum. And I don't know, I used it in Try It class, maybe not. Maybe I haven't hardly used this at all. But it is in the January mini catalog, which ends at the end of April. It is called Vellum Basics 12 by 12 Specialty Designer Paper. So you can see it has some leaf patterns, leaves, dots, and then the diagonal stripes. You could use any 3 of the patterns on this card that I'm going to make now. I went with the diagonal patterns. No reason really why I chose it. and it would look pretty straight on that. I'm going to put a piece of, I think this is papaya. Yeah, and are the ink colors that will be leaving us by the end of April. So if you have these ink pads, I would suggest that you get the refills for them on the off chance that they don't carry over. There's word on the street, I don't have official word, but there's word on the street that we're gonna have a color refresh, which could mean that some of these colors end up staying, but they won't all 5 ink colors won't stay, so you might want to get them. I'm going to use the Stamparatus so I can get multiple colors on my little piece here of striped diagonal vellum paper. You can see where it's going to kind of end up because I've already made the card once. So I've cut this just about the size of my stamp, so you can see where it's laid on here. It's about here. And there's a right side and the wrong side to the vellum. I'm going to stamp on the right side. I'm going to take a tiny bit of adhesive, just enough to kind of hold it in place, and put it right there. And this particular flower on this has the perfect place to put an embellishment. So even if you can see that on the back of that when we're all said and done, the embellishment will cover it up. So we're good. And then I haven't used these very much either. The new mini blending brushes. They're perfect for this stamp set. I'm going to start with soft succulent. And I have one baby blending brush that I'm going to use. You could use the big one on this one. It's really one of the stamps in this that needs the tiny one. I'm going to get some soft succulent on here. I didn't clean it from the last card I just made, my sample. So get some soft succulent on there. And then what you want to do is just kind of layer the color. So we'll just put some more on here, which will allow some of it to be more succulent than other spots. As you can see, and it's kind of a dappley, one of those sets that has kind of like pencil art, if you sat there with a pencil and kind of added the color. Just keep adding it until you have the amount of green that you want. I want maybe a tad bit more there. And some of the places in this stamp are also, they don't have as many places to ink. I'm having a hard time talking today. I really only talked to my cats. I haven't been on the phone with anybody today, and I've only texted, I guess my daughter, but I've only texted a little bit. So cats it is, and I just ate lunch. Now I'm going to take my evening evergreen, so I have highly used the colors that are outgoing, and now I'm just going to kind of put my color on the edges and the tips of these leaves, and not very much. And any place where I kind of accidentally get a line, just take the side of your brush and kind of tap it off, and then this looks really pretty. It looks like you hardly add any ink, but look what it does to that. And then the second time you do it, try to hit those same spots again. And then by the time you hit it the third time, it really has a dark evergreen. See, it's already getting darker. And do a little bit less, because if you kind of graduate the color down, then there's like darker evergreen, and then dark evergreen. So it has 3 shades of the evergreen. So we've got that. That's all of the green that's on here on this stamp. So we'll flip our thing over, which is how the Stamparatus works. And the first time you lay it on here, you just kind of, I stamped in the soft suede, and then I just lined my stamps up. So I'm going to take my pale papaya, and I want lots of pale papaya. That's going to be my base color. It's a very light color, so I'm just going to go ahead and put that on there this way. So we have a base of pale papaya. See, it's super light. And in fact, I can do it one more time. I could really stand to re-ink this, but you never want to re-ink your ink pad right before you video, because then it's going to be too dark in some spots. It really needs a little bit of time to sit. That's better. Now I'm going to take this, and I'll just do the same thing I did. It won't be nearly as stark as difference, But the same thing I did with the evergreen, and just kind of add a couple of highlights. You can see it. And just kind of hit those same spots again. I'm going to use this on a different stamp, so I don't need to close that one. And then I'm going to take Flirty Flamingo. We're going to do the exact same thing we just did on the with the evergreen. So kind of hit there. I'm going to get the center of this, and then over on these. It's a little bit harder for me to get these under here because I don't want to get my fingers dirty. When I wasn't filming, I just pressed on the green. There you go. And one more time, you can see how it's filling in that color. It's kind of hard for you to see right now the stripes on the vellum because of all the stripes on my scrap paper, but you'll be able to see it when we pull that off. Got that? That plate, I don't want it to touch anything. Balance it on my trash can. Now we have these little flowers up here, but this one's a little bit tricky, and this is why I used the tiny brushes, because this particular little stamp has both flowers and leaves on it. Has a little die cut stuck on it. So I'm going to use a little bit of my flamingo and get these flowers. I don't have it on the right way. I looked at it and I thought, that doesn't look like it's going to stamp. I did this one up so it'd be easier for me to touch. Get these. The first time you do this, you might want to do it with markers so you can kind of see which are flowers and which are leaves. It's a little bit tricky to tell. And then I'm going to do it in my evergreen. So you only have to do one coat of green. So these are leaves here across the bottom. And by doing it in evergreen, if I have any of the flamingo on the stamp, this will kind of mix in better with it than the succulent. The succulent might make it a little brown. And see right in here, this is why you need this tiny little thing here. That's a leaf. And then we'll go over and get this one. And this will kind of lift up any of the green that got there. And it's kind of like magic. See, isn't that pretty? Now you can do another coat. I'm not going to do another coat on the leaves, but I am going to hit one more with the flowers. Then those are done. And we're going to flip this around this way. Maybe. Wrong angle. I was pulling it the wrong direction. And then I have my soft suede, which could also stand to be re-inked. About once every 3 months, I take all of my pads. And here's the thing. Sometimes I know you see people and they say their pads have like, I don't even know what you call it. Like they've kind of gotten crystallized or a little dried up. I think if you just set a date, maybe set an alarm in your phone, mark it in your calendar, about every 3 months, just refill them all. Then they're always moist, and mine are at the point where they need to be refilled. And I realize I use mine a lot more than you, but if you let them dry all the way up, I think that's sometimes when that crystallizing happens, because I don't think it's good for them to get all the way dry. There's a lot of things, you know, that if we let them dry all the way up, it's just harder to bring them back to life. So if you, and you don't have to fill them all the way back up, just make sure you go around the edges. But I think it's just proper care of our tools. So I'm just going to ink this in the soft suede. The nice thing about this is it doesn't matter too much because we're going to emboss it in just a second. And that makes it a little bit brighter. Plus we're using the Stamparatus. If I was just doing this, I would be like, oh, that's not very dark. but we're using this Stamparatus, so I can put 3 or 4 coats. I think I did 3 of the other one. And anytime you're on vellum, it does look lighter anyways. So I really didn't notice it as much until I went to stamp my sentiment and I used the soft suede, and it was really a soft suede. And so then I switched to the sentiment to my evergreen, which was a lot darker. So I'm going to do 3. But that is the wonder that is the Stamparatus, is you can keep doing it as many times as you want and get it as dark as you'd like. Isn't that pretty? So, so pretty. And it's so much prettier when you take it off the lined paper. I'm going to get my embossing tray. Pull this off here, because remember we have that little piece of sticky holding it on. Use my clear powder, which I've been using to hold this all in place. Just pour it over the whole thing because it takes ink longer to dry on vellum than it does on regular cardstock. So you can see it's stuck on the whole thing. And when we dry it in a second or heat it, it's going to look like glass. It's going to really amplify that color. I'll just clean that up in a second. I have a giant growing little stack over here of everything that needs to be cleaned up. The kit also comes with tweezers to hold it. I have no idea where I laid mine. I did have them out. If you watched my video, the last time I heat embossed, I did not have all of my tools. This time I got them out, but now I don't see where I put my tweezers. Just hold it in one spot. It's really easy to see on this one. See how much brighter that gets it? It does make it look like glass. Makes it look a little wet, dewy. With this, it isn't as important as it is on some things to make sure it's all heated, because if it falls off, you've got color underneath it. You just don't want it to smear. That's done. Now we've got our little pieces here. Now I'm going to show you something before I put it on the piece that I chose. I took this piece and then I laid it on different colors. I don't have the white one here. Because when you have vellum, I highly suggest that you just take your, I'm going to knock it over, because now I've laid all this stuff on top of my white piece. Just lay it on different colors. So here it is just on white, but you lose the stripes on the white, so I didn't want that. And then you can lay it on the green. So now you can see the stripes. And then I laid it on the brown, but you kind of lost the soft suede a little bit. It was pretty. But wait till you see how it pops when you put it on the papaya. See how it really pops those flowers out? And the green can hold their own. Sometimes when you put a color on vellum on top of another color, it can change it. But I thought the green really kind of held its own. So see it again on here. Like the green looks really pretty on that. But see how the flowers kind of lose it? And then we go back over here. And the green holds its own, but the yellow isn't as... or the papaya just isn't as pretty. But see, the green's green. The green keeps the green. But look how that papaya just really pops. Isn't that beautiful? So what we're going to do is we're going to shove this up to the top. You may need to cut off a little bit if your sentiment ends up not fitting. I tried to get as, I wanted to see as much as this as you could, and I wanted to see as much as the vellum as you could, and I wanted to get the sentiment on here. They're smaller sentiments, but we're making this at my in-person camp this month, and I know they like to use birthday cards the most. And the birthday saying, I think, is probably the widest of all of them in this set. This celebration set has some really good sentiments in it. So this says, "For a very happy birthday." And here it is in the green, and I'm going to put it as close down to the bottom as I think I can get it. See, it's just a little wide when you're trying to save all the space. See if we can get it. But the nice thing is it's also vellum. We did it. So if it goes up a little bit off the card, you're good. And then I'm going to take, on the other one, I did it in the papaya and it got lost. There's some specklies in here. So this time I'm going to do it in the Flirty Flamingo. And I'm just barely going to touch it. So you can kind of see the little splatters back here a little bit better. And I'm not inking. It's a big set, a big thing of splatters, I'm just going to do a tiny bit of them. Just kind of not push down the whole way. There we go. Now, we need to put this on here. Don't put any adhesive where there's not any image. Kind of bend it back and forth. Make sure your hands don't have ink on them, because everywhere you touch back here, you'll get ink on them. I am just going to put my adhesive behind any place that has the flower or the leaves, and that will be enough to hold it, and then over time it will flatten itself out. So as low as I can get it down here. And you don't want to do this twice, because pulling vellum back up will really make it curl. So kind of lay it down. It's good on there, and then push those spots down. And then I'm going to add my ribbon just to this part and then put it on here. So right now, as part of Celebration, you can get 2 spools of the frayed ribbon, which is one of my favorite ribbons. It's the one I showed you just a second ago on the Fiesta card. It's also in the catalog, so you can just buy it. I love it. I love to deconstruct with it. This is already done, and I don't want to do another one. But I used part of it for my other card. So I took my scissors and I just cut along this selvage. I can't believe I didn't get that vellum dirty, because my hands are a hot mess now. But just cut this off. So I cut all the way down along it. And then you're just going to take and pull out a few of the strings. And you're just going to pull them out. You don't want to do too many at a time, because you'll get, when you have a long piece like this, they'll get halfway down and then they just jam. So I have maybe 6 or 7. There may be more than that. And then just lay them on the table, and then go back and get a few more. And then you can just keep this piece of ribbon until it's all the way used up. And if you go back on my videos, you'll see a bunch of cards where I've used this in different varying techniques. See, I tried to do too many at once. Even though I just told you not to do that. I get impatient. And if you have a short piece, you can do more. It's these long ones, because it gets down here in the middle and it's like, we're done. But you can kind of go back the other way. So we'll pull from this side now. And where we meet in the middle, the ones that have already started. And just lay those there. I always do it longer than what I need, and then trim the edges. That way, the ones that at the ends that maybe don't match up when you lay them on the table like this. That's good. So see, you just have this, and you can keep working with it. On the Fiesta card, I colored them with blends. So this was colored. We have this. I did with the green, yellow, and red. You can add a little bit of adhesive behind it if you want to. In fact, on this one, I think it's probably long enough. Let's try it this way this time. See if it's going to wrap. It might not be just long enough. Oh, maybe. The other one was really long. Let's see if I can make this work. If I can't, we'll just go back the other way. Nope. It's just a fraction too short to do it that way. But here's what you can do. Let's do it like this. So if you want to do it that way and it's not long enough, we're going to start from this side instead of from the back. And we'll come around this way. So I only have to meet once. My bows are big, and I cut off a ton on the other one, and I'll show you. And now we have a little bit more to wrap around the front, and I want it to kind of go like it's holding the bouquet together right here. Gosh, my fingers are dirty. And I'm not quite sure how that happened. Oh, it's from touching the plates, I think, on my Stamparatus. So just tie that, and then see, there's still enough for a bow, and I wrapped it around twice, which I didn't wrap it around. It's 1.5. I did not do that on my other one, but it completely changes the look of that really kind of wide ribbon. And now I've put it on 2 cards, and there's still enough left to do at least one more. So it's a great use of ribbon. And if you get it free with 50, you get 2 spools. You'll have ribbon that you can use in different ways for a long time. Bow. There we go. And now we'll put it on here. Be super careful if you put your adhesive on any of the paper that have gone through embossing folder, especially the thick ones, because the paper is already, like when you pull on it, it will rip up. So you can see I did it on a yellow piece there. I suggest you just do it on the flat pieces and not on ones that have been embossed. Here we go. Isn't that pretty? And remember how to test those vellum pieces to get the one that you like the best. You can have just a little ring of cardstock where you work, just sitting at your desk, so you can always flip through and layer things with the sample pack and not have to always do full sheets. I tend to have about half the colors at all times on my desk just sitting there from things I've been working on. Put that there. And then for the embellishments on this, I'm going to use the iridescent gems. This is from the Flora and Fauna. I think that's what it's called, suite in the catalog, which I haven't done a lot with. But that's what I demoed with at On Stage, and I think I kind of got burned out with it. But I did look at it the other day, the paper. I pulled it out and I was going to use it on a card. I didn't end up using it, but I was like, oh, this is pretty. I need to use it again. But the colors that I chose for this project match perfect. And remember, I told you if you have any see-through right there, that this would cover it right up. Okay, so here it is wrapped. Now here it is if you just have a bow. And I cut off probably this much, and I started with a much bigger bow, and it could still be smaller. I just hated to waste all that ribbon. There you go. Free with $100. Celebration lasts just about a week more because February, short little month here, and this year it ends in February. Join my team. I'm doing the stamp giveaway this week. Everybody who orders $75 or more goes into a drawing. I have, I think, at least 5 of the stamp sets I'm giving away. All of the information's on my website. Join my email list. Join my team. Have a great one. Bye.